Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Christina Minoguchi. She is a licensed therapist, trauma survivor, and the author of My Secret Life, a memoir unlocking the neuroscience secrets of trauma transformation. The book explores her own journey through trauma and healing. She's also the creator of MindWorks, a neuroscience-based program that helps people understand and regulate their mind, body, after trauma. So, this is my brief introduction to you. I just read it here. The full bio will be at the end. We've been talking off record already, Christina. So, welcome to this platform that's all about the freedom to feel. I just go back to that over and over again, not being afraid of feelings, but also embracing them, but also, of course, being aware to the feelings and the emotions that don't serve us anymore. So this is something that where I am right now, kind of still scanning to see what emotions doesn't serve me. So with that in mind, we'll be exploring this topic today of freedom from trauma and reclaiming control. But
Yes.
before we begin, dive deep into your amazing book. I love the cover. I have so many questions about it too. I wanted to ask this question that I ask everyone from the get go. How would you introduce yourself? Who is Christina in this very moment?
Well, I used to identify myself as a rape and traffic victim, but now I identify myself as a trauma expert. And I teach my clients exactly what trauma is and what it does to our mind and body. And it made us feel so out of control for years and years and years. And so I teach amazing neuroscience techniques. So pretty much I'm a guide and mentor to our trauma club for any person that has experienced trauma. And I might add, many people come to me for anxiety, but really what they're coming to me for is trauma. Anxiety is just a symptom of trauma. And so, pretty much, it's my job is to kind of mentor and guide and teach exactly what's going on in the mind and body and how to clear trauma. And we clear their traumas and they can start their life free. And there's like this myth that we are damaged by trauma, and that is not true. It does affect our brain, but our brain is absolutely amazing, and we can change our brain. We can strengthen our brain. We can rewire it. We can release the traumas from our body. So, for me, I am just kind of like a trauma guru and teaching people how to get their power back. Absolutely.
That's beautiful. I love um, how informative you are. It's I mean, it feels like I'm talking to a teacher, like an expert, and that's exactly what you how you title yourself. It feels that way. It's not just something that I'm words that I'm hearing, just with my whole being and being in your presence for a while now. It feels that way. So let's start here, Christina. What is trauma from your perspective?
Well, trauma is anything that happens to you that makes you feel negatively about you and your world. So every single one of us has trauma. Just some of us have a lot more than others, right?
Huh?
But we've
Yeah.
all experienced trauma. Nobody is immune to it. Some people handle trauma well. It really kind of boils down to the how long we've experienced trauma, what the trauma was. But every
Yeah.
single one of us has experienced trauma, and trauma stores in our nervous system. Our animal brain actually stores it there. And for those of us with long term chronic trauma, our nervous system kind of gets set on fire quite frequently. And it depends on like the person and their, the length of trauma that they've had. But trauma really is anything that happens to you. I have a lot of clients who come to me and say, well, I don't have trauma like you, Christina. But then we get to their traumas, right? So if you are a child of a parent who had any issues, substance abuse, mental health, emotionally unavailable, incarcerated, parents who are harsh, strict, perfectionistic, then you're part of the trauma club. Because those children learn that they're not good enough, that they're not worthy or they don't matter. And that is trauma. A lot of people think that trauma is like I did. If you're in the military and you're on the battlefield or a car accident. But even I didn't really understand that I was a trauma person until I began studying trauma. And I was like, whoa. So if you've experienced anxiety or long term depression, whether it's low grade, and depression can look like,
Yeah.
you can look like Eeyore, very sad, right? Or you can be angry. And so depression can come in all different forms, right? So trauma, so after we have trauma, the animal brain, it's the amygdala, will store the trauma in our nervous system. Why? So, when you have experienced something negative or bad, the animal brain's job is to keep you safe and alive. So, he stores it in your nervous system. They're trauma cells, but I call them bubbles because it's more fun. But
Yeah.
the bubbles store in our nervous system. And this is why we get triggered on negative things. We rarely ever get triggered on positive things. It's a
Mm,
safety mechanism. And
yeah.
so, for those of us with lifelong chronic trauma, right? Our nervous system is full of these trauma bubbles. And when we have stressors that happen, right? Our trauma bubbles get backed up, our nervous system gets set on fire. And then we're anxious, depressed, we're not sleeping, we can't eat, or we overeat, or we abuse drugs or alcohol or those kinds of things to self medicate. And so
Right.
trauma is really a neurobiological issue. In my mind, even more than a mental health issue. Trauma is neurobiological and it creates um, mental health symptoms like anxiety and depression, right? But that doesn't mean we're crazy. Although I understand I felt crazy most of my life growing up with the anxiety and depression, my racing thoughts and feeling tight all the time and always hypervigilant and fearful. So I did feel
Yeah.
crazy growing up. But today, now I know what it is. And I teach my clients exactly what it is and how to control it, how to calm their nervous system down with really, really amazing techniques. So that is kind of trauma in a nutshell. So, for those of us who've experienced trauma, there are many people who had great childhoods, right? I call them unicorns because there's not very many of them, right?
Yeah.
But most of us have had lifelong chronic trauma, and our animal brain, I call him George, right? But our animal brain is exhausted. And so that's when people come into me when they have anxiety, when they feel depressed, when they just feel at wit's end. And that's when they come in. And it's really quite amazing because the MindWorks program that I'm offering, it actually takes 1 hour to learn. Right. And once my clients learn it, it really sets them free. They know what it is. They know what their symptoms are. They know how to shut it down. They know how to contain the traumas and control the traumas, and they know how to get rid of them once they go through. Most of the time, I can help anybody within 6 to 8 sessions, really. Most of the time, even sooner than that. It depends on how long your trauma is. If you're like me, who had lifelong chronic trauma, it's going to take a
Yeah.
little bit longer. I went to therapy from like 14 to 38, traditional talk therapy. And I was on medications, had numerous diagnoses, right? But today, after EMDR and after learning and understanding and studying the MindWorks program, I have no diagnoses. I'm on no medications whatsoever, and I'm perfectly fine. And that's my message for today is that, we can heal. Just because we've had a trauma life does not mean that we are doomed to have to carry that and live with that for the rest of our life. And that's
Right.
part of the reason why, Valeria, why I chose to come and do this podcast was to really share this message because even I didn't know until my brain opened up to neuroscience.
Yes. Wow. I absolutely love your clarity. It's just so clear. Everything that you say just makes sense to my entire being. Of course, we are speaking from the perspective of body, mind, but then you have also bring the spiritual aspect of it. That is
Yes.
another. That's another aspect. It makes it complete in a sense. So, talk to me about the book, My Secret Life. What inspired you to write it? Why did you write it? And what was a question that it came to me, like I have to ask her that question. What was the most challenging section or passage or page to write?
I think it was the sexual abuse part because for most of my life, I didn't talk about it, right? I repressed it or, just kept it down. It wasn't something that we talked about. And it was very vulnerable for me to share my history and
Yeah.
with very much detail, right? Because I wanted people to understand, especially my trauma people, right? All my sexual abuse victims, they're like, oh my gosh, you described it exactly how I felt it. I felt frozen, like in a concrete statue. I couldn't breathe, right? Helping people understand what that was, but it was very vulnerable for me to share that because many of
Right.
us sexual abuse victims, we feel shame. Today, I do not feel shame. I didn't do anything wrong. Those people did things wrong to me, and I don't feel
Yeah.
any shame. And then
Yeah.
writing about the family member that did it, and I think that that was the hardest part. I cried for 2 weeks before I published that book out of fear and sadness over the family members that would
Yeah.
know who I was talking about. And it was
Right.
really, really hard. And I prayed to God, and I said, I don't want to hurt them, God. And God messaged me back in my mind and said, You're not hurting them. He hurt
Mm,
them. You're just telling the truth. And it was really,
mm,
really difficult for me
yes.
after writing the book because there was a review on my book from one of the family members
Oh, yeah.
who put that I was lying, that it wasn't a true story, but it is a true story, right? And I really meant no harm. I meant no hurt whatsoever. And my love for those family members was really immense. I struggled with that. I struggled with sharing that story. It wasn't because I was vengeful at all. It was about understanding that sexual abuse can happen over and over within families, right?
Yeah.
Multiple times to victims because we're kind of
Yeah.
similar. The victims, we're kind of quiet. No pedophile is going to pick a sassy
Mm,
mouth child. Pedophiles will pick the quiet, shy, meek ones, and that's what I was. And so I wanted to share my story, and it was scary to do because it is detail by detail of exactly what happened, and it felt like I was exposed. But since then, is that I understand that this is my purpose, and my purpose is to show that if I could go through all of that bad trauma. Right. And I am perfectly fine today. Right. So can every single person who has been in my shoes, who has experienced those traumas. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I wrote the book. And a lot of my clients, I keep it free on Kindle Unlimited. So my clients can see the condensed MindWorks version in the back. It's the second part of the book. But
yeah.
a lot of them will come to me and say, Christina, I had to stop reading it. I'm like, wait a minute, you guys know me, right? You know I'm perfectly okay. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't change a thing, Valeria. Everything that
Mm,
happened to me has grown me. It has made me the expert that I am. And those of us in the trauma world, we're stronger than you know. We are not weaklings. If anything, we are like Olympic gold medalists in
mm,
resilience and persistence. And that is really my message is that just because we've gone through trauma, it doesn't mean I was damaged. I did believe that for the longest time. But now,
right.
what I want to tell my clients is other people might have hurt us. That doesn't mean I'm broken, although I felt broken most of my life, right? Today I know I'm not broken. And it gave me resilience and persistence. And my goal for every single one of my clients, I don't ever baby them, right? Is that come on, let's go. Let's get your power back. And to show them the truth, to show them how to get rid of their traumas. Oh, I have the best job in the world, honestly, Valeria. And for
Yeah.
me, that I would have to say that that would be it, would be the hardest part is the vulnerability of sharing my deepest secret life. Hence why I called it my
Mm,
secret life, because
right.
I didn't
Right.
talk about it to anybody. And there's so many trauma people out there that are quiet, that they don't share, they don't talk about it because of the shame and that we feel dirty and that kind of stuff, right? And my job is to show people, no, that we didn't do anything wrong, right? The other people did. And so we can still be whole in our mind and to really, really teach them how to be whole, how to be in
Mm,
control, and take their power back, you know?
yes. How beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. You speak for a lot of us. Yeah,
Yes.
that's for sure. Something that surprised me is that I have seen this happen over and over again. I interview a lot of women here on um, sexual assaults and all that, and I don't know why they don't. That we don't have a justice, this justice system, like that could kind of even. That could do something about it. It's just something that I heard that it's not possible anymore. Once you have, there's a period of time, and then they dismiss the case. I mean, it's almost like there's no case in that situation. That's something
Yeah.
that's doesn't feel right to me. If this really happened, this person should be in jail right now. So, but
Yeah.
why?
Well, and
Yeah.
the problem with that though is there are a lot of people who lie. and who will use that as a control tactic. Women lie about sexual abuse.
Um,
And like for
okay.
me, I did just recently find out that the statute of limitations, I believe, was released in Missouri, and but you have to have proof. And it
Yeah.
has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And so many of us we feel shame. We freeze. So fight, flight, freeze. So we freeze. We don't talk about it. The evidence is gone. And so it's really, really difficult. And I had read somewhere that of the 100% of sexual abuse cases, only 11% go to court. And of those 11%, only
Yeah.
2% become convicted. And, there has to be a lot, an STD, some kind of DNA or evidence. And many of us, we freeze. So with
Yeah.
the animal brain, fight, flight, freeze. So it really, the
Yeah.
normal kind of pattern for those of us in the sexual abuse world is to freeze and dissociate. And so we can't speak up. We don't say anything. We just, it's kind of like we're robotic in our life, and we don't say anything. And so there is no evidence. And I think that that is a struggle. And then it's a he said, she said type of thing, and
Right.
in our court system, it has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that this happened, and it
Yeah.
is so hard to prove. It really is truly hard to prove. And the only thing I could think of is to really do education in the schools about
Yeah.
sexual abuse,
Yeah.
about the freeze. And if it ever happens, you got to
Yeah.
tell somebody right away and to understand the freeze part of it. And that,
Yeah.
it's not shameful that person did something wrong, but it is just an automatic in many of us in the sexual abuse world. And many of us have been raised in homes where sexual abuse is just rampant. And we just
Yeah.
don't say anything. Many children don't even understand that it's wrong. They know it feels wrong, but they don't understand it's wrong until they get to be the teenager and they begin to see other people and talk to other people. And then they begin to understand this. So I'm not quite sure what the answer is to that. And for me, I thought about pressing charges and whatnot.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm ready to move on with my life. I
Mm.
don't need to drudge any of that stuff up. The person, what I think of is that I know the truth. The people that did that to me know the truth, and that's all I need, just to stay in my truth. I'm not out to hurt family members or anybody that is related to the rapes and traffickers.
Yeah.
My job, my purpose now is to really help our people. So I'm not really interested in going to court. It is exhausting, it is emotional, right? And I believe spiritually, karmically, that things
Mm.
come around. What goes around comes around, and they will be dealt with when it's time. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, if somebody really does want to go ahead and do that, absolutely, I would fully support them. But for me, I'm really focused on living, on positive energy and those kinds of things, and just really living my life and being free. And being tied up for years and years in court is not my ideal of fun myself, right? But I support anybody who chooses to do that. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess I asked the question because if they're out there and they believe that they can get away with something like that, then they would just kind of perpetuate the suffering and do that to other young girls and other people. So we wanted to put a stop on that if we can, right?
Yes,
Oh, I
I wish that
wanna.
they had more like school programs to
I
teach
know.
younger. I had a school program when I was about third or fourth grade, and it had already been going on. It would have been nice to be able to, do it second, third grade, and really put into the curriculum that no one is supposed to touch us. And if that happened, and I did go through a training just like that when I was third or fourth grade, and thought, but what if I wanted to raise my hand and say, but what if he said he was going to fillet your family, right? And I didn't say anything.
Right.
And so to really
Yes.
teach about the
Yes.
freeze, because that's what would happen is I froze and didn't say anything. Do you see what I'm saying? So teaching, I would love to put the MindWorks in a curriculum for little kids
Yeah.
to understand the animal brain and all of those things. But it'll be a work in progress as we go.
Oh, that would be amazing, Christine. I love that idea, especially because you have also the stuffed animal that you can show. I mean, children they relate to that. I mean, that
Yes,
would be amazing, like a child. Oh, like children's book too. That's one
yes,
thing, and then
yes,
you have that in video. I mean, I would love to. Oh, just let me know if you wanted to do that because I would love to have that out there. Yes.
yes. Well, currently I'm working on a book right now of lessons that the trauma club learned growing up right? So are the bad lessons that we learn, and then the truths for later on. But I have a child's book on the way as well, and really working on the George, which is the animal brain. Here's
Mm,
George,
yeah, I
right?
love that.
So
I love that.
we use the meerkat as the animal brain. So I am in the works of working on a child's book to really teach
Ah,
children about emotions and George and how to control this part of our brain, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm working on
oh,
it, Valeria.
I love that idea. I love that idea. And stemming from that, I have a question about the fear, because that's the problem. We, as children, I remember that's one of the things, and I'll kill you if you say anything. So, and
Yes,
then we
yes.
just, yeah, we freeze, right? And then all these that chain reaction. So, how would children deal with that? Do they have the brain, the capacity to still go beyond fear and go to the parents and tell the parents or somebody that could help them?
Yes, they could, but there is that the animal brain, and a lot of times the animal brain will dissociate a child, so that they don't think about it. That they kind of
Right.
go out and they don't think about it, which is, by the way, a spiritual gift in my mind. I don't think it's a bad thing at
Yeah.
all. So if I didn't
Right.
dissociate, I'm not sure I'd be here. And
Yeah.
so it's a
Yeah.
protective mechanism, but even and for me in my life, I did struggle until I was in my 40s, and I became an EMDR therapist, and I began to really truly understand trauma. Right, it did affect me, but just because we've been abused, and even children, right, children are very resilient, and I didn't
Oh,
even
yeah.
notice a lot of major symptoms in me until I became really a teenager. And so,
Right.
I knew what had happened or whatever, but children just stay quiet. Doesn't mean that they're maimed for life at all. We can always EMDR them. I see 14 and above, but there are EMDR therapists that see younger children. I've seen like a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old before for like a car accident, trauma, that kind of stuff. And the children take to it really quickly. And I might add, if a viewer's child has been sexually abused, look for a really good EMDR therapist, one that has
Mm,
5-star reviews, right? And you take your child there, and it's really quite amazing. All the little kids do wonderful when we do it, and we teach the skills like turning off George and drugging your body. We have a big old pharmacy in here, and we teach them all
oh,
that. The children actually do really, really well. And so just because a child has experienced trauma doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be lifelong at all. If they get the right
right.
treatment with EMDR, and you can get my book for free and do the MindWorks program, which we're putting out for free as well, to understand what's going on in their mind and body. We need to tailor it more. It's tailored more to like 14-year-olds now, but we
Right.
need to do one for a child. I'm looking for like a child educator person to really begin to work with me on that for the developmental stages of the children. But it's not a doom situation, right? We can really treat it, and I'm not talking about years and years on a traditional talk therapist couch. I'm talking about we can treat a lot of this abuse. I can release abuses and traumas in one session sometimes. And so, it really is quite amazing. So just because a child is abused doesn't mean that they're going to be doomed for life to be a trauma person. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. Yes. Yes. And that's you are the I mean, you're just this living message of that. And so am
Yes.
I. So am I.
Yes,
And so many people that
absolutely.
I talk to. I love that, Christina. Yes, a billion times of that. I want to show something and ask you a question. Let
Sure.
me see. Oh, not something. I want to show the cover of your book, and I want to ask you a question about it.
Okay.
Uh, the I just love the symbol. So talk to me about the meaning of this symbol. It's,
Well,
I mean,
all my clients know I absolutely love ladybugs. There's ladybugs throughout my book, but I am the ladybug. I've loved ladybugs since I was a little girl, and so the
yeah,
ladybug symbolizes me. And I've been on a path and a journey my whole entire life. I am an expert in trauma because I lived it. I am one of us, and the ladybug is on a key, and I found the key. And I found the key to open up this locked door. Is that my whole life I knew I knew that there was something better. I believe that there is an answer to every single issue that we have. And I'm not going to stop until I find that answer. So the book signifies the locked door, is that I have been banging on this locked door my whole entire life, trying to open it, trying to live my life and learn. And so she's on the key. And so I found the key. And it's like this door signifies my secret life, something that I locked up that I never shared with anybody else. It was lock and key. And finally, it's like she's opening the key with the lock and sharing everything that I have learned through my journey and what has really, truly healed me. So that's kind of the symbolism of my book. A lot of people don't understand it until they meet me and understand the ladybug, because I show the ladybug with the magic box and, the
Right.
techniques that I teach or whatever. But the ladybug really is me. She's a hard shell. She's beautiful, red and black, and she just keeps crawling. She
Mm.
just keeps going
Mm.
until she finds the answer. And so my book shows you that she's finally got the key.
That's such a beautiful symbology, though. I looked at it. It looks very ancient at the same time. It's almost like symbolizing also the ancient wisdom that's within that
Yes.
knows the answers, right, of everything. It really
Yes.
came. I mean, that's what it said to me immediately when I saw it, without even reading anything. There was that's what it communicated to me. So it's quite powerful. Yeah, it's really powerful. I just had next to my computer. It will be here actually because of what it symbolizes. Also because the circle. I love circles. Like symbolize
Yes.
the flower of life. You see there, wholeness in the soul, being whole. So it's untouched. So yeah, in the end, it seems to me that's about the story that we tell, right, Christina? So if we are experiencing this life here, then it feels to me like it's a storytelling type of a thing that we are the humans experiencing ourselves, others in the environment is a story. We can create stories out of it. And and what I wonder, and a question that I've been asking for so long, is why do some of us suffer more than others, and why is suffering necessary?
Well, I didn't always understand this as I was growing up because I had a horrific childhood. But today, all the suffering that I went through, the rapes and trafficking, I didn't speak about. My father was a veteran, a Marine. He had major PTSD, and my mother abandoned me with him when I was 6 months old. So I was raised by him. And then going through the rapes and trafficking and being raped by a family member, all those things, it was a horrific time, really. But spiritually wise, today, if you would have told me, 10 or 15 years ago that I was going to be a trauma expert and I was going to help people and really give their power back, right? It's been
Yeah.
really an amazing thing. And I think that today, when I look back on all the suffering that I went through, I wouldn't change a thing, Valeria. I really wouldn't. It really makes me good at what I do. Um, and those of us who have gone through trauma, we're empaths. We can read a room, we can feel people, right? We can know things actually. And I think for me, I'm so grateful for that suffering now, not while I was going through it. That's for sure, right?
Yeah.
But
Oh no.
today, it all makes perfect sense. And whenever we suffer, this is the way I look at it. I think of it in terms, I think of everything now in terms of life lessons. And that
Mm,
everything that comes our way, we can look at it as, oh, I'm suffering, or we can look at it as, all right, what's the lesson? And if you
yeah.
learn the lesson, you don't have to repeat it, right? But
Mm,
I wouldn't change my suffering. Actually, while I was going through it, I would, right? But now that I'm through it, it's like, I get it. I understand. It was like I've been in life university my whole entire life. And it was
mm,
showing me and it was growing me and building my purpose. And every
yeah.
single person, when I see a child that comes in, or somebody was talking to me about feeling sad about a child that was going through trauma, she's like, how do you deal with that? And I say, I think, wow, I wonder what that child's purpose is going to be. Right?
Yeah.
Is that I went through such horrific stuff and my purpose is amazing. I'm no more special than anybody else. Not at all. I'm no better than anybody else. And when it comes down to it, is I feel like suffering is part of our life lessons. And it shows us if I hadn't gone through all that suffering, I wouldn't understand how strong I am. If I hadn't gone through
Mm,
all that suffering, I would have never learned the things that I needed to learn. And if I had never gone through all that suffering, then my people that I work with every day, they would be still stuck. And so, if
mm,
anything, I think that my suffering, as crazy as this sounds, was in a way, a blessing. And spiritually, we have choices. We can look at it as suffering, or I can look at it as a lesson. And so for me, I look at everything as a lesson. What's the lesson? What do I need to learn? Because if you learn it, you don't have to repeat it again, right? And
Yeah.
to really just keep going and being resilient. It's one thing about us trauma people. We are not
Mm.
weaklings at all. I did think I was going to fall apart growing up. Like I was Humpty Dumpty and I was going to fall apart at any minute. But that was before I understood trauma and I understood the mind and body and how to control it. And like the MindWorks, within a little over an hour, we can teach clients exactly what it is and how to control their mind and body. But if I had never had that trauma, I would never have written my book. I would never be so swamped with my trauma people and really
Yeah.
helping change their lives, right? So I look at suffering in a very different way. It's no fun when we go through it. But if you can go through with positive energy and a strength that, you know what, it's not something that I think strength is built, honestly. And so all my suffering I look at as it really strengthened me. It really did. And I didn't give up. There were times, Valeria, that I did want to give up, right?
Yeah.
And there were times when I was so exhausted, even suicidal. But you know what? At this point, once you
Yeah.
get through it, right? Man, it shows you how really strong we are. We are not victims. That should not be our identity. I like the
Mm.
survivor piece for sure,
Yeah.
is that we are
Yeah.
survivors and we're like a ladybug. We're strong on the outside. We keep going, we keep crawling, right? Kind of thing.
So
And
cute.
so that's kind of the
Yeah.
symbolism for me is I got a hard
Yeah.
shell and I'm going to keep going, get out of my way. Does that make sense?
It does. I love that. Yeah, they are
Hmm.
so graceful too. I love the colors, and I see that you're wearing too, right? The red. I just looked at you and looked at Ladybug. Like, wait a minute. Yeah, that is her. It's yeah. Yeah, there's something very very primal in me. I don't know. Might be an ancestor type of thing. I don't know, or spiritual that looks to protect the innocent in innocence. Like I
Yeah,
refuse not to be innocent in the sense of telling the truth, even when somebody will condemn me or judge me or try to punish me for it. I will do it anyway. So I got myself in trouble many times because of it, because something that I value, innocence. I'm just saying because I'm kind of trusting you that you won't punish me for it, for being truthful and for being what I can't help but be. So I see that with animals, with children, and oh gosh, I have just such a reverence for it, and it's almost like I would do anything to protect them. And but that means also that I'm protecting that sacred place in myself that's very innocent and is not afraid of telling the truth. Although
right.
I was afraid when I was little, and that's the thing. That's the thing about children. That's why I asked that question, because when I was small, I couldn't really, I knew it was something that I had to say something, but I didn't because I was too afraid to do it. And I'm wondering if we can help children to do that. Like even though you're afraid, do it anyway. Do it anyway. Say everything. So I'm wondering if we can teach them to just be courageous enough to I know that's dangerous, right, Christina? Maybe that's why you didn't go too much into that topic. It might be dangerous for children to just kind of, yeah, say it anyway, and then
Well,
they might
it's
be
kind of
killed
twofold,
because
Valeria,
of it.
too. Yeah, it's kind of
Mhm.
twofold though, because um, when it's found out, that can be just as traumatizing to a child too. And so
Oh, I
um,
see.
I know in my book I write about when it found out. My father took me to an attorney, and he said, "You're going to tell him the story." And I was mum's the word, right? Like I didn't even want to talk about it, address it, nothing. And so I suffered even more abuse because of it. And so then if people want to go to court, they don't understand if a child doesn't, if a child can't handle it, if they can't be up on a stand, right? And there I vouch for almost every one of us. None of us want to go up on the stand to talk about it. I was
Right.
even further more traumatized. And so when I deal with sexual abuse victims, I say you'd say it when it's your time, when you're ready to say it, right? You do not have to say it, because so many, like, I was pressured as a kid to tell what happened. And literally, emotionally, I was not there. And so it can
Mm.
really kind of backfire. And so I think that every child has a right to say enough, right? I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it, because we're already living it in our brain anyway, every day, day in and day out. And we can traumatize children even more. Well, tell us what happened. What's going on? Interrogation.
Mm.
When the child doesn't even know. I was 8. I didn't even know
Yeah.
what it was. I knew it
Yeah.
wasn't right. I knew it made me feel horrible, but I couldn't even verbalize what it was. And so it can be really traumatizing too, to force victims to talk about it when they're not ready, and that can be just as worse. For me, honestly, I think it made it
Yeah.
way worse, and I think
Ah,
that each person should have the
wow.
capability, and any child should have the right to say, enough. I don't want to talk about it right now. And so many people pressure them, or we need to talk about it. I do think society is getting better in terms of like talking about sexual abuse. So kids
Yeah.
do know about it, right? But
Yeah.
it still doesn't stop the shame, the fight, flight, freeze part
Mm.
of the sexual abuse stuff. But I do think that compared to when I was a child versus today, that it is more well known. People do talk about sexual abuse, so I think it's out there. But it can be just as traumatizing to be forced to go to court, to be forced to talk to strangers about what happened, right? It was
Yes.
just as bad, Valeria. Absolutely. It was just
Yes.
as
Yeah.
violating. Just as violating, I will say that for sure. So I would advocate for
Yeah.
any sexual abuse victim. You don't got to say anything. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to let them keep their own power and control until they're ready. And I wasn't ready until way later in life, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I remember in your book, the part where in the boat with your father, and then he asked you about yeah, if
yes.
somebody touched you, and then yeah, you looked at him in the eye, but you couldn't really say it, yeah, because this fear would
No.
arise. Yeah, I
Well, my
remember.
my abuser had said that he was going to kill my family, and his house was right across
Right.
the street. And so
Right.
for me, I was just like, nope, right. And so, but
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't even know what it was. Still, I didn't even know what to
Yeah.
call it. I didn't know how to talk about
Yeah.
it, right. And so many
Right.
children don't know what to say. They knew how it made them feel for sure, but they don't know how to
Yeah.
describe it. Hmm.
Right. So that's one. Is usually I look for prevention, like these days, and coming from education, of course, in a place of more of more empowering. This is beautiful what you do. So many therapists, the work that
Yes.
I'm doing, sharing the messages. But I'm wondering if there's a way that we can stop this from happening. So, what about educating parents? That feels like a work of God itself, right? Like a spiritual type of work too. That people becoming more, I don't know, enlightened, more in touch with their hearts. Isn't that what it is, Christina? That's needed.
I do think so, but also there's a lot of sexual abuse that runs in families. And
Yeah.
I was a sexual abuse investigator for the longest time, and I was so shocked when the mothers would
Yeah.
take the perpetrator's side because their partner or whatever,
I
and I would be
know.
like, "You have got to be kidding me!" But then I
Yeah.
learned
Yeah.
that mother was probably sexually abused, and for her child to be abused, then she would
Yeah.
have to admit that she didn't protect her child. I mean, it's very psychological when it comes to that. So sexual abuse
I
does
know.
run in families too, and
Yes.
we can educate them. There'll be parents that watch this that have a child that was sexually abused, right? And there are right ways to do it, and there are wrong ways to do it. But the families that are so enmeshed in sexual abuse, right? It's very difficult because it's part of their
Uh,
familiar, and they
yeah.
won't talk about it. Mum's the word kind of thing, and then they'll tell these. I've had so many victims. Of sexual
Uh,
abuse come in and say, I wasn't believed. Me neither. Right. And I
yeah.
said, hey,
Yeah.
the one thing you need to remember is you know the truth and that person knows the truth. And that's all you
Right.
need to know. Right. And
Right.
then we move forward with their life. I think I lived my whole life, like I said, as an identity as a sexual abuse victim. And that is not all who we are whatsoever. And we've got to show those people and show those children how we handle it, how we get rid of it, and to empower them. And once we
Right.
process and we teach them about trauma and we teach them how to control their mind and body, then that might help them testify in courts, right?
Mhm.
And go through
Yeah.
that for sure. Absolutely. I think if I had the skills that I'm teaching, I would be able to do that. But I didn't. And I didn't have support because there's a lot of other abuses in families besides sexual abuse. And so there's a lot of
Uh,
controlling, substance
yeah.
abuse, that kind of stuff. And so the biggest thing
Yeah.
I think is just empowering a child. If you know a child who has been sexually abused, you just listen to them. You don't force them to talk about it, right? And you say, hey, I'm a safe place to talk if you ever want to, and you just leave it at that, right? And make them feel safe. And that's all you need to do. No pressure, nothing like that. You know what I mean? And that's what
Yeah.
we really need. God has put angels along my path throughout my life
Yeah.
to be safe people in my life. So I typically always had a safe person somewhere in my life for the most part.
Uh,
So, spiritual wise, I do believe that there are angels along our path as we go through.
I agree. Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? Yes, that's has been true for me too. So I want to mention the link to the MindWorks program. It will be in the podcast notes. They'll be clickable. So it's
Okay.
right here. And also anyone can find more information about Christina at thetraumamasterminds.com. That's the website.
Yes.
But I will have the MindWorks program link will be here too. That's free for now, right, Christina? But it won't be free forever. So, what's the time frame? Is there an ending
Well,
to this?
yes, tentatively we're talking about the end of the year, but you know what? It just depends on the popularity of it, and if it's really going right, I'll keep it going for free. Because the
Um,
biggest thing is, I think that every single one of us from the trauma club deserves healing, and a lot of us, the economy, the incomes, those kinds of things. I want everybody to have access to it. To be able to learn and to free themselves. Life is too short for us to live under that trauma
mm,
spell for so long. And so right now it's tentatively till the end of the year, but you know what? It's probably going to be extended even after that. So to really
yeah.
get that, and my book is free on Kindle Unlimited. The MindWorks program, there's like a condensed version, the second part. I warn readers though, a lot of my clients have read my book and said, oh, it was so bad I had to put it down. And one thing I will say, I wrote it because if I can go through all that stuff and be totally fine and totally normal now, so can any of us. And to know I'm perfectly okay. I would never change any trauma in my life at all because it makes me really good at what I do. My purpose is to help free people. So for now, I really haven't set a date or time that we will actually begin charging for it at all. My big goal right now is to get it to as many people as free as possible to help them understand we're not mentally ill at all. It is a neurobiological issue. You can control it. You can control your mind and body, which is freaking miraculous, right? And
Mm,
I want people to understand it more than the money's not important. I think right now it's really getting the information out to help them understand it, how to control. Because I will tell you, these techniques and what I have learned has freed me, has given me my life back and given me back my power and control. And I want as many people to have it. We all deserve to be free. We all deserve to be in control. And it has really, really freed me. I hope that everybody becomes freed soon because it was a trauma hell. I call it the trauma hellhole that we
oh,
have grown up in. And
yeah.
my job is to help try and pull people out of that hole and show them their beauty, their worth, their power, right? So that they can live the life that they deserve. We do not need to be living in the trauma hellhole anymore. And it really is quite simple. Most of my clients are like, it was so easy. I'm like, I know, right? It really,
Yeah.
truly is. I've
Yeah.
simplified it so much um, because the neuroscience was really difficult to understand. So I had to simplify everything. Many trauma people, by the time they get to me, their brain is kind of mush. They're just exhausted and fried. So I had to simplify everything in the neuroscience piece. But everybody gets it. Even children can understand George and the MindWorks
Oh,
program
yeah.
and the
Yeah.
skills. And so I just want people to be free. I want them to have their power and control back. Life is too short. None of us deserved that trauma life. None of us did. And it's time to free yourself. You know what I mean? It really, truly is. And so for me, I don't have any problems putting it out for free because people need to know it. Oh, I wish I had known this information in my 20s. Life would have been much different. But otherwise, I could think that's my only regret is that I didn't learn it in my 20s. But I had a lot of lessons to learn. And it has been one amazing, wild ride. The journey has been absolutely crazy. But I absolutely love my job. I have the best job in the whole world, Valeria, because I
Yeah.
get to
I
see
can see
people
that.
change. Yep, they come to me
Mhm.
scared and exhausted, and they leave
Yeah.
me saying, I got it. I'm like, yes, you have it kind of thing. And it's just so exciting. So it
Yes.
indefinitely for now, Valeria, but right now tentative is the end of the year. But then after that, like I said, I may just keep it for free depending on how big it blows up, and how many people are really looking for it. But even if it is out, and we do end up starting to charge for it or whatever, I will
Yeah.
always offer scholarships and free access to anybody who is not able to pay for it either, because this is
Right.
spiritually, this is not mine, this is all of ours, and to really, really help humanity get control of their lives, because we just deserve to be happy. We deserve to be, well, and happy is a strange word, by the way, because what is that really? And I started thinking
Right.
about it one day, like, I just want to be happy. What does that mean? What I really
Mm.
wanted was safety, security, calm, and peace, right? And
Mm.
we all
Mm.
deserve that, every single one of us. So that's what my goal is. I hope that
Yeah.
so many people really learn the mind works and get their power, their life back again. Seriously.
Yeah. It's truly beautiful, though. I love the compassion. We're very compassionate. It comes across that way, sincerely and also generous. So compassion, generosity. What a beautiful combination. So yes, I'll have a note at the on the podcast notes at the end of the year for now. But then part two of your book. So that's where it's about. Mind's work, and I know you mentioned off record that you'd like to explore. I have made a lot of notes here myself. Me George, that really got me. The trauma soup that caught my attention, and then George and the trauma soup. But then I think you mentioned earlier, oh, you have George and the FBI files. I was laughing when I when I read this too. I made a mark. So I know you mentioned earlier off record, Christina. You want to explore? Is that the magic box? No, not the magic box technique. There's another one that you wanted to share here
Oh,
with me.
yes,
Remember?
the two
Yes.
second release, Valeria, the 2 second release. So let's go through it really quick. So I'm going to treat you like a
Yes.
client, right? And so I'm not going to teach
I'm ready.
you that. So what this 2 second release does, your animal brain drops what we call trauma soup, which is like adrenaline, norepinephrine. It's like cocaine, liquid cocaine, right? And that's what's
Yeah.
going through our body when we're feeling hypervigilant, anxious, tight, your brain is spinning, you can't breathe, right? That is George and trauma soup, right? So the 2 second release is the way to hijack your animal brain, and boom, it knocks it out so that he
Mm,
stops dropping this trauma soup. So the trauma soup is
yeah.
what creates your anxiety. So this trick knocks out the animal brain. By the way, George is your buddy, right? But sometimes we need to turn him off, right? And
Yeah.
so this one will turn him off. So I'm going to just show you how to do it. But if you want to know the
Yeah.
science behind it, check out the book or the MindWorks program, right? Because the MindWorks program will explain to you why does this work, right? So Valeria, in a second, I'm going to teach you, I'm
Yep.
going to walk you through this, right? But here's how you do it. So the first thing you do, whenever you're feeling yuck at all, right? So if you're feeling great,
Mm,
keep doing it. But if you feel or right?
mm,
These
mm,
are George, turn them off, right? So, how you do it, big breath in through your nose. And at the same time, you're going to squeeze your butt cheeks, your lower pelvic muscles, and your lower abs. So, your whole pelvic area, you're going to squeeze it. And you'll learn the science in the book or in the MindWorks program of why this works, right?
ah,
So, as you're breathing in, you're squeezing your whole pelvic area and then just letting it go. And when you let it go, right, you're going to just breathe normal, but you're going to sit like you are a paraplegic, like you can't feel anything from your belly button on down. Now, in a minute, Valeria, I'm going to walk you through this, and I'm going to have you close your eyes, right? And when you close your eyes, I'm going to walk you through it. And I want you to keep your eyes closed the whole entire time because I want to show you something once we get there. But I'm going to yell, Valeria. So tell me really quick, can you hear this? You ready? Ah! Did you hear that yell? Okay.
yeah.
In a minute, I'm going to yell. So I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to walk you through it and you're going to release it all, right? And keep your eyes closed. And then I'm going to yell. And I'm going to say, did you jump, Valeria? I want you to keep those eyes closed the whole time. And I'm going to say, did you
Okay.
jump? Right? Because if you jump, George is on. If you don't jump, he's off.
Mm,
Got it? Now, once, if you're going to shake your head, yes, we're going to do it again till you say no, right? But then when you say no,
yeah.
I'm going to say, good, stay right there, Valeria. Keep your eyes closed, right? I want to show you something inside your body so that you know that he really is off, right? Go with me. And don't worry if you open your eyes. Everybody does. We'll just do it again,
Oh,
right?
oh,
Okay, so close
so
your
they're
eyes.
close. Hmm.
Yep, close your eyes. Big breath in through your nose. Squeeze your butt cheeks, kegel muscles, lower abs, nice and tight, and then just let it all go. And you're going to like sink into that chair and you're just going to breathe normal and you're just going to let it all go. And you're going to sit like you're a paraplegic. And remember to keep those eyes closed, even after I yell. Ah! Did you jump, Valeria? Stay right there.
No.
Notice right now, Valeria, that you can't notice your right big toe until we just took your brain there. Does that make sense? It's like it's disappeared.
Yeah. Yes. I didn't feel. Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah. Notice right now that
Lovely.
you can't notice your left pinky finger until we just took your brain there. It's like it disappeared,
Yeah.
right? Right
Yeah.
now, your body is like a car and it's in neutral. Right now, there is no George, no animal brain on right this minute. And therefore, there is no trauma soup right this minute. So, therefore, there is absolutely, positively no emotion in your body whatsoever. It's like you are in a little black room, velvety black room, and everything's peaceful and everything's calm, Valeria. Can you
Yeah.
feel it? Stay right there. Whenever you're feeling yuck, that's why I tell my clients any yuck, any yucky emotions, anything, big breath in, release your pelvic area, shut George off. You stop the trauma soup, you can shut down the anxiety. You can open your eyes now, Valeria.
Oh, that's
What do you
good.
think? So when
Yeah.
our brain is,
No.
yeah, when our brain is spinning, right? And in order for it to spin, you have to have George and trauma soup on. Adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol. Makes us spin, makes us tight. Whenever you feel yuck, just big breath in,
Yeah.
release your pelvic area, right? And it just calms everything down. It hijacks the amygdala, which is the animal brain. It stops the
Right.
flow of trauma soup, right? And it calms you down. Now, if you there's different levels of trauma soup, Valeria. There's little trickles like negative thoughts. There's dumps when somebody ticks you off. There's waves
Yeah.
like bad memories, and then there's tsunamis, right? And so the tsunamis
Oh
are
God.
hard. You got to turn George
Yeah.
off. And then in my MindWorks and my program, I teach how to drug your mind and body. So I'd like to teach you really quick, and I'm just going to go through it so that we share this with people, but you don't have to do this if you don't want to. But
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
first way I teach is to take your hands and you put them on your ears just like this. And you rub your ears like this, nice and firm for 90 seconds. And when you're done at 90, right, you're going to drop your hands. And what you're going to feel is you're going to feel this tingly sensation in your fingertips, but you're going to feel, I
Mhm.
call it like warm hot chocolate on a cold winter's day flowing down your ears below your neck. Excuse me. And that is actually stimulating your vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve is the happy soup nerve. So we've got trauma soup, which is George's, and the vagus nerve is the happy drugs, right? And so when you
Yeah.
rub like that, it drops the happy soup down your body. And so I teach a couple
Hmm.
other ways to drug your mind and body. But this is the first way I teach my clients. And whenever you feel yuck, whenever, and by the way, you don't need alcohol, you don't need cannabis, you don't need anything like that. George has enough drugs in here to make you lift a car off a child, and he also has enough drugs in our body. We have a whole pharmacy in here to be able to drug
Mhm.
your body and calm it down. So there's lots of other ways that you can drug your body, but this is the first way I teach my clients. It's easy, and you just do it for 90
Mhm.
seconds. You can do it numerous times. Do it before you go to bed at night because it hits the
Yeah.
vagus
I
nerve
will.
and it begins to just really trickle happy soup throughout the night that will help you sleep better. So
Right.
my MindWorks program is full of different tips and tricks on what to do. But the number one trick is this one. And I've got a bunch of other ones too. The magic box is phenomenal. It is really
Oh
cool.
yeah.
But this one is number one because if this is out of control, if your George is out of control, right, your mind and body are on fire. And so you've got to turn it off. You've got to turn him off, then drug your body with your ears, right? And if you want to learn more, like I said, I teach so many other
Uh-huh.
skills and techniques in my program, and I'll be adding more as we go too, to really teach people how to get control of their mind and body. And so it has been absolutely amazing for my clients when they get upset when they're talking about something. I'm like, big breath in, release your pelvic area, right? I teach the magic box technique, which is quite amazing. It puts you in control
Mhm.
of your traumas right away, and then
Yeah.
drugging their body and calming it down. So there's at least two skills right there that I do teach my clients in their very first session. I do teach the magic box in the first session too, to
Yeah.
be able to put them back in control. And the magic box is freaking magical. It's really cool. And that's
Yeah.
free in my MindWorks program as well, too. So what did you think of those, Valeria?
Yes, I mean, I'm familiar with the breathing techniques. I do them a lot. But now with the tighten the lower part of your body, that I never heard. That is really different. And I will try. I'll definitely do that. But I really love the ear too. This rubbing the ears, it feels good. It feels really good.
Yes, yes.
I can't hear much. I mean, it makes this very funny noise too. That's kind of, yeah, it's soothing. It's
Well, and why does that work?
strangely
So
soothing.
yeah, let me tell you why that works. So you have a lot of acupressure points in your fingertips and you have them all
Ah,
over your ears. So when you put them
yeah.
together and you rub them like that, it heats up. When they heat up, it interacts in your brain and your brain pops on and then your brain hits the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is the happy soup nerve. It goes right down your brain to the front of your spine. And so when you're rubbing it, it actually stimulates the vagus nerve and the vagus nerve begins dropping happy soup. So what you felt was happy soup dropping down the sides of your neck, right? And so you
Ah,
can do that as many times as you want. You cannot overdose on that, right? We've got opiates in here. We've got all kinds of medicate. We have a whole pharmacy in here. And so really
yeah, I
teaching
love
people how to control that and to drug their body. So if you do heroin, you got to do Narcan, right? So if you do trauma soup, you got to do happy soup. And if you don't, you're going to feel really crappy for at least 12 to 30 hours because that's how long it takes for trauma soup to process out of your body naturally. So I teach
Wow.
my clients if you're feeling yuck, turn off George, throw it in the magic box, drug your body, calm it down, you're good to go. And to really put them in control. And really, like I said, all my clients are like, it's amazing. I'm in control. I'm like, exactly. I felt the
Yeah,
same way when I learned all these things as well. It put me back in
yeah.
control. It's really quite amazing.
That's it. You see, that would be a good title for the book too, for a book. The Body Pharmacy is probably already out there, right? Something like that. The Body
I don't
Pharmacy.
know. Well, and I
I
teach a
like
couple
that.
other ways too that is absolutely amazing. I have another one that I absolutely love, and it's the one I use all the time, but it takes longer. But that is also in the MindWorks program too. But man,
Yeah.
I can drug myself, Valeria, in 2 seconds. Even while you're looking at me, I can drug myself, right? And so the MindWorks, it shows all of it and how to do that. But it, like I said, all of it's free and anybody can go and watch this as soon as we get it live. So hopefully within the next
Mm,
couple of weeks of your podcast, it will be live and available. And like I said to you, I said the first video is very formal, but I would like to really do another one just with my own personality and how I teach my clients and
mm,
stuff because it's just more fun
yeah.
when it comes to that. But yes, I
Yes.
can't wait to put it out for free and let people really learn. And I do trauma coaching. I have a private practice in North
Mm,
Carolina and Ohio. I also work for a
yeah.
company called Spring Health, so I'm super duper busy. But I just really feel like it's time to get it out to the masses and help them understand we're not crazy, we're not
Mm,
broken, we're not
mm,
doomed for the rest of our lives, right? Their healing is absolutely possible. It's actually easier. Most of my clients are like, I can't believe how easy it was. And I'm like, I know, right? It's insane. But I do think I have the
yeah.
gift of making things easier, of really helping shrink it down into more understandable ways, only because I had a
Right.
trauma brain too. And studying the nervous
Uh,
system, I was like, oh my gosh, how are my people going to remember this? And so, hence George and why I chose a meerkat. They're so
mm,
cute. They look like cats and bark like dogs. But the thing that got me about him is that meerkats are very hyper vigilant. And I was like, spirit animal. So that's why we use
yeah.
George. Um,
Yeah.
and to really teach people how to control this part of our brain. And the MindWorks will show you why is it releasing our butt cheeks that it actually works. It shows you the science behind why that works. Sometimes I feel silly teaching people that without teaching them the science piece of it, but it really does put you back in control.
Yeah, it's very clear to me that everything that you're doing it's evidence based, and it feels very not just evidence based, scientific, but us coming from your experience. So that's one of the things that's really kind of I mean, that's the first thing that kind of not just opened my heart, but just opens my mind too. Like, wait a minute, she has been there, so she knows. She's not just she didn't read about trauma. She has experienced it in a very, I mean, we're talking about the capital T, right? The trauma, the big traumas, like I had it too. So that gives you immediate, like instant credibility. Sadly speaking, because I have met a lot of
I'm grateful,
therapists.
Valeria. I'm so grateful for everything that I went through. I
Oh, I
really,
know you
truly am.
are.
To turn spiritually, to turn all the wickedness into something so
Mm,
fantastic, right? I
mm,
am grateful. And
yeah.
like I said, I wasn't always in my younger years, but today I am very grateful. And so, for anybody, any of you out there who are going through trauma, right? Trauma can really build us. And I know people make fun of it. Oh, toxic positivity or whatever. Anybody that says
Yeah.
toxic positivity are negative
Yeah.
Nellies, honestly. But I flip everything to the positive. Every single thing. You had a bad father, right? Well, when you have your child, you know what not to do then. And we can flip anything. I
Mm,
had a client once say, "You can flip anything to the positive." I said, "Try me." And he said, "My dad died.
yeah.
Make that positive." And I said, "Okay, tell me about your dad." And so I let him go on and on and on for a while. And then he said, "Now make that positive. He died." And I said, "Okay, you ready?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "I'm really jealous of you. You had that for 45 years. I never had
Mm,
that for one day." And you know what he said? "Damn, you're good." When it comes to that stuff, is that,
mm,
you know,
mm,
we can turn
mm,
any trauma into something
mm,
miraculous, really.
mm.
Really, trauma strengthens us, it grows us, we're resilient, and we are,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, badass when it comes to those things. And so I don't want
Mm,
any of these trauma people watching this to ever feel like they are weak at all. I did most of my life. And now I understand, oh, no, 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 no. Trauma
mm.
is really strengthening. They did a research study on the most successful people in Britain, and they found they had
Oh,
one thing in common: long
yeah.
term chronic trauma. And so for me, I cried, and I don't cry. If I cry, you better run. I was
Mm,
raised by a Marine. But when I saw that, it really flipped my life around, because I was like, yeah, I'm not a victim. Yeah, I am badass, and I am resilient, and I've gotten through every single thing that's come my way. I will get through every single thing from now until the day I go home. And so, you know what? Yeah, that's right. And so that research study really changed my life, to help me grasp a different perspective, that we are not victims, right? We are survivors, and we can turn our traumas into something positive and beautiful and amazing.
gosh. Yeah, I mean that wisdom is all over your message, your work, your words, even your body language, everything. It's
Yes.
your frequencies, your energy. I mean, it's just that's it. You have become your message. Thank you so much, Christina, for being you. It's yeah, it's beyond empowerment. Yeah, wisdom is something that's timeless, so it's even beyond it's very spiritual. So thank you so much for being you, for having the courage to do everything that you have done after what you went through, and for giving this gift. You know, you have this program that now is offered for free again by until the end of the year. I'll have the website here and the link for MindWorks program and also your website. But and you also have a page on is that the Trauma Club on Facebook. Is that still active, Christina? That's something that I wanted to
Well,
ask you.
I do have a Facebook business, which is just Christina Minoguchi, LISWS. I have the CPTSD Club, although I'm so busy that I don't keep up. I have a couple of our trauma club members that run it, or that post on there or whatever. But eventually, I'm really hoping to make a community through the website, with the MindWorks on it, to really
Yeah.
continue to share I learn new things all the time, right? To begin to keep
Mm.
sharing
Oh
the
yeah.
cool things that we've learned. And to
Yeah.
really, my next venture, I really believe, is we learned some wrong things growing up about ourselves, right? And I want to teach people the things we learned, like we're unlovable, we're unworthy, we don't matter. And I really want to show them the truth, and to really
Mm.
help kind of bridge that gap of what we learned as kids from being raised by trauma people to today, what the real truth is. So that's my next venture too, is to really help. It's called the life lessons, right? And what we learn as kids growing up to what the real truth is. And that was something that I think I needed too, because I felt so stuck in that trauma hole of we're not good enough, we're not
Right.
smart enough, we don't matter, we're invisible, we're unlovable, those kinds of things. And to really
Yeah.
help them understand, we are computer systems. We can rewire our computers, right? And actually, it
Mm.
doesn't take long. So I'm really excited to do that too, Valeria.
Yes, you have a beautiful way of doing that too. It's very confident and it's very clear. I mean, and it feels true. That's the most important
Yes.
thing. Feels true. Thank you so much again for everything, for your presence here today. And we'll be in touch soon. We'll meet again. And I guess, is there anything that you left unsaid, Christina, for this conversation? This is the very end of the interview. Is there anything that you left unsaid?
The only thing that I can say that I want to say to the trauma people out there is that you can heal. It actually isn't difficult at all. And it is really quite amazing. And I really encourage anybody to take up these offers of the free book on Kindle Unlimited and the MindWorks course. And if they're in Ohio or North Carolina, I can be their therapist, right? If not,
Yeah.
I coach people across the United States as well. I can't do the clinical stuff with them, but I teach them everything that they need to know, and then I will help them find a wonderful EMDR or brain spotting therapist because both of them are wonderful and great to help them. So I know what to look for. I know how to guide them on those things. But healing is real. We do not have to be stuck in the trauma hole for the rest of our lives. We are not doomed, and
Mm,
you can be free. You can be free. And so that's the
mm,
one thing I want to leave with, that is that we don't have to live that trauma life. We don't have to be imprisoned. I was in prison for most of my life until I learned all of this information. And that's the whole reason why I'm putting it out for free, because I don't want anybody imprisoned. I've been there. I know what it feels like, right? And there is nothing better than to be free, to be able to breathe, to be able to live our
mm.
lives the way we want to. And is it possible? Yes, it is 100%. And it is not difficult at all, not one bit. So that's what the one thing that I want to share is, so that people do understand we can have our power back. We can get our control back. Absolutely. And so that's why I'm putting it out for free. And that's it. That's the one thing that I wanted to really share tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much again. Yes, that's something that's reoccurring, something that you've been saying for a reason. Thank you again. All the links will be here on the podcast notes. And have a beautiful day where you are there, moments where you are, Christina. And we'll talk off record. Just for the record, I'll say goodbye for now.